Twilight draped the woods in velvet shadow. Bagrim padded through the forest on the balls of his feet, watching his step for every branch that could snap and every branch he could rustle. He was exhausted from a day's march, and had lost himself more than once and circled back in his own tracks in the dense wood, but pressed on in the fading light anyway. His keen nose had caught a promising lead. He followed the clack and fear scent on the game trail, a light Malador, probably belonging to one of the little ones. The creature he sought would have landed near Ship Queen Hokaki's pods, since both her and the creature were condemned at the same tribunal and shared adjacent capsules. Judging by the way it tore through her ship trying to escape, it would probably want nothing to do with her and her drones, but one of them might have seen where it went. He felt with his tongue the little com nestled between his teeth. If he could get to those bugs, it would translate their clicks into Arashi for him. They knew the thing better than anyone. They had to have some kind of answer, even if he had to force it out of them. The fear scent abruptly stopped. Judging by the lack of bugs standing in front of him, whoever he was tracking certainly hadn't. But he couldn't find any other tracks or signs of anyone passing through here in a long time. The place seemed utterly deserted. Bagrim knew better. He was about to be ambushed. He assumed a defensive stance. A branch snapped off to his left. He heard the leaves rustle off to his right. "Who's there?" he growled. But whatever had made those sounds had gone silent. "If you're going to take my things, I haven't got any," he called. "If you're going to kill me, you can come out and face me like a true wrath." He heard the shadows chortle. Spoken like a true warrior. Out into the fading light lumbered another wrath with a snout sliced with scars, his fur the exact colour of rust. Metal claws glimmered, fastened to his forepaws by some crude, even downright savage attempt at armour. One of those forepaws wrapped itself around something in the bush and yanked it out without scratching it on the blades. A Clackham worker, not much taller than either wrath's front knee. Bagrim caught a fresh whiff of his fear scent. "You hear that, you mongrels? We've got a real warrior at Sardis!" the wrath shouted at the forest. From every side around Bagrim, more sinister laughter arose. He saw eyes and canines showing at him in the darkness. His white tongue quickly moved to cover the com hidden in his mouth. "What do you want?" he muttered. "Well, whenever the Concord drops us some fresh blood, we like to have a little taste of it," the wrath replied. "You ever tried roasted bug?" The worker drone couldn't understand what the two were saying, but it could catch the bloodthirsty leer in his captor's eye. It continued to quiver in the wrath's grip, trying to suck his gut from the reach of the blades wrapped around it. "No, get out of my way." "Oh? You don't care if I drag my claws like this?" A little dribble of yellow-green blood poked out from the worker's undershell. Bagrim stilled himself. "Go ahead." The wrath looked curiously at him. With one upward slice fast as lightning, the drone's head was gone. Bagrim didn't flinch. "Impressive," his king crooned. "Tell me, warrior, where do you hail from?" "Urash," Bagrim answered. The woods around him snorted their derision. "The 12th tribe!" The wrath in front of him asked mockingly. "What did you do? Leave the trash compactor running too long? Swab the rock deck?" Bagrim went with his cover story. "I took bribes as a Concord officer." The only thing more unbelievable than the Concord sending a corrupt officer here is the Concord promoting an Urashi. Come on, they only send us the real menaces to the society. So what did you do? Bomb a station, assassinate an official, spy on the Aldrins? Bagrim could finally place the wrath's accent. "I could ask you the same, Pabashi." "Oh, if I told you, I'd have to kill you." The Pabashi speared the newly deceased Clackham with his claws, and lifted it to give the carapace a sniff, like it was a freshly cooked roast. It slid off and hit the ground with a small wet plop. "Then again, there's not a lot of meat to this one. I might just kill you anyway." The Pabashi charged, intending to knock him into the ground to finish him off there. Bagrim froze, pretending to be struck with terror. Just before his opponent could bowl him over, Bagrim lunged right back into him and smashed his forehead into the other wraths. The two reeled for a moment, but Bagrim was quick to recover. He swiped furiously at the most vulnerable places, the neck, the face, the snout. His claw caught the enemy's eye, with an ear-piercing howl the Pabashi staggered away, bleeding profusely and chopping his metal claw blades blindly at empty air. Those aimless strikes had the intended effect of pushing Bagrim away, but the Urashi captain reoriented himself on the Pabashi's right flank, where the gouged-out eye couldn't see. Then he made his own charge. The Pabashi was on the ground, flailing wildly. Bagrim leapt onto him to keep him down, grabbed his forelegs together by the ankles, and isolated his sharpened blades. He put down the beast with a chop of the neck. The blood loss from the artery there would kill him in seconds. Bagrim spat out the fur and the flesh in disgust. I rolled off him, glancing at the forest. I guess he was your leader, he told the ice, peeking out of the shadows. They looked a lot meeker now. He huffed. Well, if we're all going to be savages like our ancestors, we may as well follow their customs. I bested him in combat. That makes me your new leader. But you don't know Temba. Ursa was just following his orders to hunt down all the new blood. Bagrim furrowed his brow. Have you caught any yet? The silence said enough. Fine. Then take me to Temba. I think he needs some real hunters. The Raffi stumbled out from their positions behind trees and brush, all wary of the Arashi they had been mocking just moments before. As they led him away, he watched one quickly snatch the metal claws off the dead Ursu, and another two drag his body, and the Klakens after them. Bagrim thought of how Ursu was salivated over the Klaken, impaled on his claws, and shuddered. If they weren't growing or hunting enough food, and the guards up in orbit weren't dropping down any rations, then there weren't many other options left for the prisoners to survive. One thing was certain in Bagrim's mind. The death in Deathworld wasn't from the native wildlife. He just had to find that creature before Temba's gang did. Treat watched helplessly. Her species was used to its numeric superiority, so when more Raffi than she had ever seen before converged them in an open clearing, she knew that all of her sisters and the Ship Queen were in trouble. The Ship Queen's drones had been picked off one by one, snatched by hulking figures smashing for the brush. Even Hross had been taken a while back, lagging behind with the limp she'd developed after the thing caused her to take a nasty fall. The rest of the injured soldier drones, rallying around Creek, formed something of a rear guard to hurry the ship drones along, but it was little use. Their numbers had been whittled down to 8, each huddling close to the Ship Queen in the centre. We have to do something, Treat chittered to Dro. Do you have a gun? Dro hissed back. There's nothing we can do. But that's my clutchmate down there, and those are our sisters. We can't leave them as prey to the bears. We don't have a choice, unless the thing intervenes. Treat turned plaintively towards the thing. All three of them were sitting high up in a tree it had insisted on hauling them up into just moments before. A raft came rumbling through not long afterwards, but didn't bother to look up. Klakens didn't usually climb trees, after all. Right now, the thing seemed to be watching the situation as anxiously as Treat, his eyes darting quickly between all the emerging Rathi. She tugged gently at the thing's arm. You need to help them, she begged. Can't you do something? It's no use, it can't understand you, Dro said. The thing sat dumbly for a while. When it turned to Treat, she could see the teary sadness in his eyes. It solemnly shook its head. There's already a dozen Rathi down there. Dro attempted her best translation. The thing knows its limits. It already had to surrender to one, and that was when it still had a chem gun. The thing picked up Dro and tugged her under one arm, then shivered down the tree trunk back to the forest floor. It outstretched its arms for Treat to land in them. Settling her down, it gestured in the opposite direction for the clearing. Treat's gaze lingered on the clearing. She heard the chirping and the clatter. She saw the Rathi picking up her sisters, her clutchmate, her former queen, and carrying them away into the growing darkness. The three reached the moon's-lit riverbank. A peppery scent filled her nostrils as she watched the thing nonchalantly pick up rocks and examine them against the moonlight, as if nothing had even happened. At last picked up a little stone, pitch black against the sky. To her it looked like nothing special, but the thing drew her over, placed the rock in her foreclaws, and tried to get her to rub its surface like it was a piece of solid gold. Its fleshy foreclaws firmly clasped hers, enclosing the stone. She saw the determined glint in his eyes. Somehow, with a stone so much smaller than the ones it had thrown earlier, the thing was going to defeat those Rathi.